Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to How to Win at Chess. This is a series where I take on my Twitch subscribers. In 10-minute games, I go up the rating ladder and I show you how to play as you get to certain levels of the game. Now, what's crazy is I haven't recorded an episode of this series in 4 months. I didn't even realize. You ever not even understand how fast time goes? I thought it was just April a day ago, but all of a sudden it's mid-August, late August, in fact. Of course, as always, to celebrate the return of one of these episodes, I am offering a 40% off sale on all of my courses. There is a link in the description, and you can use the code RETURN, because we return to this series, RETURN. Anyway, it's in the description. Individual courses, 40% off. And I think that's basically everything that I wanted to say in the introduction. If I forgot something, I will tell you it as we move along here. So, as always, these are long recordings, so buckle up. We're going to be here for quite a while. The first individual who is playing today has the username Galaxipix from, is that Algeria? Okay. Algeria. Shout out to Algeria. A lot of strong players from Algeria, actually. I think everything is good. I haven't recorded one of these in a while, so I'm just going to have to banter and talk through all my moves. All right, we have an e4. For the first game, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I might play something in my Black Gambit's repertoire. It is sort of fitting that my opponent plays the Vienna, right? Sometimes it's funny when I play against my subscribers, they play the openings that I've recommended, and it's kind of difficult to, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to fight back. Maybe we play into a symmetrical Vienna. So maybe we play knight c6. And 2 knights better than moving out the bishop, because the copycat variation with queen g4 is very strong for white. It's not losing for black by any stretch of the imagination, but it can be a little bit annoying. Now bishop c5 and bishop b4 are both good moves. I'm going to play bishop b4. White's best moves here are knight e2 to try to push for a quick f4. Yeah, so black's best move here is actually to play the move d5. We are able to play this move now because the knight is pinned to the king. So this is considered the best move in this position, because normally you want to, but just by default, you want to put 2 pawns in the center if you are able to do so, and we are most certainly able to do so now. I'm going to move this over here. You guys don't know what I'm talking about, but I move my streaming software to the right side. Knight takes d5, and now the best move here for white is to castle out of the pin. If you have reviewed the Vienna course, or the e4 course, which is clearly what my opponent has reviewed, you are going to play this move in this position offhand, meaning you're not even going to think, because it's the most natural move. That's not a bad move. Bishop d2 is certainly a move. Now this is hanging, so continuity, right? The knight is no longer pinned. We can take, we can also add a defender, and we can also go here. It's a little bit too early in the game to really make like such a long think about such a relatively not complicated position. So I think I'm just going to take the knight. You don't always need to make trades that simplify positions, but sometimes it's totally fine to do so. Here's another example of, like, I could take. One thing I would avoid is to have your knight go out into a random territory without any sort of target. So in this case, it probably would be better for me to trade the bishop and castle rather than just relying on the fact that this is protected. I could also retreat, but I like to say that 9 times out of 10, especially at lower levels and intermediate levels, retreating is just completely unnecessary. Like, you'd probably have a better move than retreating. So let's take, and then let's just try to make progress in our position. We've traded 2 minor pieces, and now we're going to play short castle without even thinking, really. All right, so position is completely equal here. I mean, it is just absolutely equal. So we need to figure out what our game plan is. I mean, I like bishop f5, but I'm also trying to actively think about what my opponent wants, and I feel like my opponent would love to actively develop a queen, maybe put a rook, pressuring this. It makes me really hesitate here. I'm not exactly sure what the best option is for us. I would like to go here, but then our pawn structure is damaged, so that's also not super appealing as a move. Makes me think that probably just developing for now is okay, but I am a little bit hesitant once the queen arrives on this square. I'm not exactly sure what's next. Actually, if I have to give anybody an evaluation here, I'd say maybe white is a touch better, maybe with the slightly better prospects. Probably has to do with the fact that one of these captures was just not the best move, but I don't know. We're gonna see. We are gonna see what's up. White is thinking. This is a move. This is a move. A lot of decent moves. I wouldn't go f4 now because I'm pretty sure I can give you a check. And then I can take your pawn. h3 is also, it's not a bad move, but it's a little bit passive. Now I'm thinking to move my knight into the center and completely prevent queen f3. I'm also thinking to just get really active with my queen. I actually really like the move queen g5. Knight d4 and queen g5 and even queen h4 all strike me as pretty interesting moves. I don't know which one I like more. I think I'm going to go queen g5 because this move also has a threat. I'm actually immediately taking advantage of the fact that my opponent just played that move. Like a move ago, I wouldn't have been able to do anything with queen g5, but now pinned pawn, right? Bishop h3 is a fatal move for the opponent. And yeah, these kind of slow moves, you know, you need to seize the initiative in the game that you're playing. You need to jump on that really quickly. And now the move queen f3 runs directly into this. So all of my pieces suddenly go from just being developed to actually being useful. Of course, it's not the end of the game. There's various still tactics associated with the position. I am going to play this move. This is a very natural move. I attack the queen. It is defending this. And I'm attacking this. We are actually in pretty decent shape right now. If my opponent plays queen g3, I'm thinking take, 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 and I'm attacking the rook. That obviously can't be that bad, right? But one thing you have to remember is that when this pawn moves here after take, take, this bishop is actually hanging, which is very hard to see. And if you go here, white will get your bishop, you will get this, but there is a chance that your knight gets trapped in the corner. Right? So let's say we take, right? And your game plan here is, all right, I'm going to grab that. If they move, I come back and I'm defended. But if I take this, they take this, and I take this, am I sure I'm getting out of the corner? Well, at the 900 level, I'm not even sure people would be... I'm not even sure people would see that far ahead. They might just go here and go, ooh, I'm attacking the rook. Some people might even forget about this. So I'm trying to teach you to constantly be visualizing... you know, just how the position changes, right? Like it's a very, very important skill in chess. Also, apologies if the lighting is a bit dark, but sometimes this white light that I have bouncing off the wall into me is just, my eyes get tired. So hopefully you don't care if the camera quality is a little bit darker than normal. Yeah, but we have this kind of like a change in position, you know, a pawn moves and a door opens for another piece. I do think, my gut tells me that taking my bishop and trying to lock my knight in jail in the corner with something like rook f2, preventing my escape, is probably the right way to play this position, because the alternative of playing the position is I just get back out, I'm just cleanly up a pawn, and if we compare pawn structure, I have 4 and 3. Yeah, I have 4 and 3, which is really good, and my opponent just doesn't really have a good pawn structure. But okay, let's see. Knight e3 is kind of a fork. Not really, because this is protected, but it does attack two things and defend this. And then knight d4 does defend this as well. I don't know. I mean, knight d4, I don't see anything wrong with this move. And the good thing is I'm always looking at that. You always have to look for checks. So if the knight tries to move here with the idea to deflect me off of the defense of the bishop, wow. Yeah, you see, this is what happens when you train beginners for a long enough time. You know how they think, right? You thought about this, but you completely forgot about this move. And that's yeah, that's tough. Wow. That's going to be really funny. I always enjoy predicting mistakes right before they happen, because it shows that one individual is actively thinking about sides for both, ideas for both sides, and the other person's just like, oh, if I play knight b5, you know, I take the bishop. You have to be constantly asking yourself, what does my opponent want? What are my opponent's resources? Is the game over? No. I'm going to win an exchange. It's probably better to take my bishop. It's probably better to take my bishop, because then you can still attack a few things. The game's actually not over, believe it or not. I mean, it looks bad, but I still have to be very careful. If you take my knight, it's over. Yeah, good move. So why is it not over? I still have a couple of weaknesses that I just legitimately can't defend right now. I also have kind of a really weak pawn here. So the way black should win this position is probably trying to trade the rooks. Somehow, if a pair of rooks just disappears, black will be in good shape. But I'm also under constant threat of losing some pawns here, which I really actually don't like. So let me think about this for a second. I can put a rook on e8, and then I can put a rook on e7, but then the knight is going to take here. I can get out of the way and then sort of figure out my life. I can also try to save my knight, but I can't save it because rook... Oh, but then rook e8 maybe? Oh, this is tough. It's not easy at all here. All right, I am going to try to save my knight. Let's see if this is the best way to go. Okay. If rook e5, I have to bring my second rook to the party. Or that rook. But just in general, it's okay for me to lose a couple of pawns because I'm already up a pawn. Let's not forget, I am up a pawn. I have 7, white has 6. So I can lose a pawn or two, even 3. It could get down to 3 pawns lost. This, and this. But we want to avoid 3. We're probably going to have to part ways with 2 here. The reason for that is if we took time to defend a pawn, we would be leaving our knight to die and maybe just other pawns to die. So that's why I did not try to save any pawns there. So now this is this is probably the hardest move of the game thus far. And the reason for that is it's very difficult when you're lower level to coordinate your pieces in such a way. Right. So there we go. We're losing a couple of pawns here. I'm going to try to put my rook on a square the knight can't attack me anymore. This is another very advanced technique. You're not going here. You're not going here. You're not going, I am going there. You're not going here. Because if you go rook c8, there is this and a fork potentially, which is the exact same fork that we did to our opponent. I love this move because the rook now dominates the knight. Rook dominates the knight. And at the end of the day, chess math is such that 2 pieces can fight against the rook, even if the rook has help. 1 piece cannot. The rook will beat 1 piece, okay? So we put the rook on e5. This damaged pawn structure does not help our opponent at all. And if the pawn had been like here, at least it's a little bit better. And now we just have to convert the position. So let's play a6 so that we don't hang this. d4 is not a bad move, but we're just taking on b5 there, or taking with the pawn. So that's the chess math does not work out there. We are now down a pawn, but our rook compensates for the fact that we are down the pawn. Now we have to win this endgame. I'm going to win this endgame by trying to trade. Probably the best way to win this is to... Oh, I called it again. I called it again. Chess math, right? Capture chain. I'm going to play ab5, and when you take my rook, I'm going to take your bishop, and that's it. I am just up a horse. Probably the best way to win is just trade off some pawns and win the remaining pawns on the board. Yeah, knight a2. This is a totally winning endgame. Can I run here? b5, king f3, b4, king e2, b3, king d1. Not quite, but I can advance very far. And then I can just probably use the pawn as a decoy. And as the king goes to stop the pawn, the king is in the square. It's actually, the white king is in the territory of stopping the pawn. You have to know the kind of square technique here in the endgame, square knowledge of the square, but while the king is busy going to win the pawn, I'm going to run with my knight and capture the other stuff. And that will prove decisive. Notice I didn't really have to move my king or my pawns at all. I don't know, knight d5, I guess. You can stop my pawn, but it's going to come at a cost of some sort. Although I do have to be a little careful. For example, if I go down there, I could get trapped. So you do, excuse me, have to calculate that you're not getting trapped. If I take, I actually only really have one way out, which is sort of hilarious. This is the most natural move. I'm just having second thoughts, like maybe I go for one of those pawns instead. But okay, let's take. If the white king was here, I would actually be trapped. I would need to sacrifice. But luckily, I can gallop out before anything happens. Yeah, now another fork. Knight forks are just so brutal. You have to just not blunder forks when you're playing against the knight. It's easier said than done. Now we can give a check. The only thing we have to do here is just not stalemate. Just don't stalemate, and that's going to be a win. We're going to play this on the next move, g6. White could resign here, but again, when you're 900, I would say don't resign. There's no glory in resigning. Just try to make people checkmate you. It's good practice for you and for them. No stalemate. Try to not let the king into the holes of your position because it can be very difficult to actually get the king out. Try to have the king of the enemy have more space to move because that way you ensure that you are not going to stalemate. Sometimes when the king makes it into your territory, it's very difficult to remove the king. All right, g5 now. We could continue to hunt the king with the pawn, the pawns with the knight, but you don't have to do that. You can just slowly move your pieces up together. At some point, white's king is just going to run out of space, and white is going to have to part ways with the second pawn. Yeah, so now king e5. Nice idea here, actually. And if you basically have to preserve one of these and this pawn is gone, you have to preserve the pawn. The knight doesn't deliver a checkmate. So the way you could do this is play like f6, for example, and when the king takes this, you just need to know the winning king and pawn endgame technique. So even if this was gone, this would be a win for black because the pawn just goes, right? So now we're going to make this queen, and opponent might resign because they know it's me, and you know, yeah, okay, wow. I predicted so many things in this game, which is very funny. Just a quick analysis here, nothing crazy. I just want to know if my hypothesis was correct, like probably taking isn't necessary. Yeah, exactly. The engine doesn't think we should take. It likes this, and it likes this better than taking. When we actually traded here, I said it was equal, but I said it was more pleasant for white. No, the engine disagrees. Thinks that after bishop f5, the position is about balanced. I mean, 0.1. But after h3, yeah, actually, wow, this is very funny. This is the top engine move. And already black got a, yeah, we took over the, you see? The engine thinks this position is -1. So yeah, I mean, everything that I was actually saying, I was actually firing on all cylinders in this game, which is very nice. And by the time we got over here, saving the knight was not the most accurate move. The computer wants me to play this and save my knight like that, which also makes sense, actually. The computer wants me to save my knight by taking a pawn. That's very logical. I save my knight by anticipating like this, and then, you know, rook e5, we got a winning position. But that was close. I mean, that was not an easy game at all. And a good fight by my opponent. Okay. Now we have the next game. I think we have the next game. The individual is not in live chess. As always, we have bloopers during these recordings. This is very frustrating when people sign up and then don't play or just don't show up, but that's part of it. Okay, terrific. That individual is just not here. Terrific. All right, so we are skipping a player and we are going to the third opponent. I was going to play 6 games today, but maybe I will only be playing 5. Let's play a London. This is one of my D4 Dynamite recommendations. Okay, or a Trempowski. Not bad. Which one should we do? Which one should we do? I get a little bit frazzled when people don't show up to play. I think I'll play a Trempowski. Trempowski, of course, is really only playable after d4 knight f6. Okay, d5. Let's take. This is really the entire idea of us putting the... g takes f6. Very interesting. So imbalanced pawn structure, and we are anticipating this and this. I'm going to play e3, and I'm going to see what my opponent has in store for me. All right. Opponent is thinking. By the way, if you're watching and sometimes I'm quiet for extended periods of time, it's just because it's tough to manage. I try to do these recordings in one take, right? So what I do before is a bunch of people volunteer to play, and then I try to, I try to get everybody in. But some people just like sign up to play, and despite being told 10 times the instructions, they mess something up. It's okay. I will try to like incorporate them into the episode after skipping them, but it's just a little bit frustrating. And then I have to watch them, I have to see what they're typing. Like, it's a lot of distractions here. So please don't play chess with distractions. Anyway, the idea of e3 is to regroup on the dark squares because we have just traded off our dark squared bishop. And then the idea is to play c4. So we're turning this into a queen's gambit without a dark squared bishop. And the reason for that is the structure for white is extremely solid. This g takes f6 stuff by black, it's not that bad, but you have to compensate for the fact that you have played an imbalanced pawn structure that is a little bit bad from a strategic standpoint with dynamic play. Putting the knight in front of the c-pawn in queen's pawn positions is very fatal, and my opponent has already made a pretty bad inaccuracy on move 4, which is kind of nuts, because if you think about the long-term prospects of this position, I am going to try to undermine your center and then put my knights and put my bishop and sometimes even put my queen out to h5, where under normal circumstances, I cannot survive. All right? Because you have a knight, you have a pawn. That's not a bad move. e5. e5 is definitely a good idea. Oh, I'm trying to think. Should I take this or should I play knight c3? I could also take this and then take that. Very interesting. I don't know. This does seem natural. I have to look at checks as well. Bishop b4 could be on the way. But yeah, what exactly happens if I take this and then take this? Like, what was the idea here? What if I just play d takes c5? There might be some crazy tactics here I'm not seeing. But at the end of the day, I have that. Now, I could have taken that first, but I want to win a pawn, right? I want to win a pawn. If you take this, if you take me, I will trade your queen and then probably take that or that. So, yeah. Fe, Fe, yep, and now I think I'm just a pawn up. Unfortunately, my opponent did not quite understand the dynamics here of the pawn play in the center, and I am just a pawn up. And my next few moves are knight c3, moving the bishop, moving this, and maybe castling short, but also castling long. My opponent from the last game said, sick game. It was. They actually played very well for 900 rapid. That was an amazing game. They played super, super well. Played as well as probably like a 14 or 1500. Oh, this, yeah, this is not visualizing my checks here. So this game will unfortunately be over quite fast. Anytime you leave a bishop out like this and your king is still in the center, you need to be careful of this queen check. See, my opponent, before moving the knight, had to take. Right? They had to take so that this was not possible. And by doing this, now queen a4 check just wins a piece. It happens, but you see, when you get beaten down like this, it's actually kind of nice, because all this shows is, it doesn't show a lack of skill when you lose in the first 10 moves. It shows a lack of knowledge, which is far more solvable than a lack of skill. If you don't know how to play against the Trompowsky at all because you don't face it, this is just a sign that you should, right? And this shows the power of the Trompowsky. This is in the D4 Dynamite course, right? If you're a 1400 player and your opponent spends all this time studying Benko Gambit or the Grunfeld or the Nimso Indian, and you show up with the, you know, with the Trompowsky, okay, but I can just take, right? And you just smash, right? There you go. Like, that is why I recommend some of the courses that I recommend, because I think they're very simple to play. And they give you very good chances. And they're not like stupid gambits where if your opponent knows what they're doing, you're just going to get a totally lost position. It's just a good opening. That's a best case scenario equal for the opponent, and worst case scenario losing in 9 moves. Okay. Yeah, we can continue to fight with the queen here. A lot of people get this tunnel vision in their games, like, oh, I'm going to continue to create threats with my only piece. But there's a handful of moves here that are good for us, like developing any piece, putting the rook in the middle. I think we should probably just get back to good old-fashioned development, because we're up a piece, so we should use that piece. All right, so it looks like my opponent from the last... So I was going to play 6 games today. I'm only going to end up playing 5, because the person I was going to play second couldn't remember their password, which is a pretty legendary reason to not participate. Okay, queen d5. Is there a threat? Is there a threat? Is there a threat? Is there a threat? I don't see one. This strikes me as a very natural move, and I really want to bait them into blundering their queen. You can also go bishop e2, but if you can win a tempo with development and not sacrifice anything in your position, I think it's good. I really also hope my opponent plays this. That would be very instructive. But I think they're going to go here. That's a very comfortable square for the queen. There, I can castle. I can also look to simplify. Anytime you are up a lot of material, it's always a decent idea to just try to trade off your opponent's most active pieces. If you are up a knight and you manage to trade queens, you never have to worry about getting checkmated, because right now if we castle, we can envision certain situations where we get mated over here, or maybe not, and that is why you're watching this video, because you're like, I have no idea how my opponent is going to create counterplay, because that's not something you think about at your level. That's what I'm thinking about. And with no queen on the board, good luck ever checkmating us. I really don't think it's going to happen, all right? Yeah, I think queen c5 here will happen. But if my opponent spends all this time and goes here, it's just, they just have a blind spot for checks. Okay, very good. So I can trade the queen by going here. And I can also castle. I think considering I just did all this explaining of why you should simplify when you're winning, I'm going to try to get a queen trade and also bait another blunder. Queen and bishop on the same, queen and king on the same diagonal. You need to always monitor this. You need to monitor how you can get crushed on the diagonals. This is a forced queen trade, so the queen has absolutely nowhere to go. And the reason I chose this square and not that square is because I wanted to fix my pawn structure. Yeah, queen and king on the same diagonal. All right, so my opponent has some tactical weaknesses, right? This is the second thing they blundered in this game with the king on that square. They blundered a check, and now they've blundered a pin. And, oh my goodness, a third check. Winning both rooks by force. Anywhere you move now, I take this and I take that. Wow, that was, see, so people are going to play a game like this against me, and some of them get really sad. They're like, wow, I'm so bad. He won my bishop, queen, and both my rooks. No, this has nothing to do with your intelligence. A lot of this happened because you just weren't familiar with the tactics of the opening. And that happens, you know? That's why I recommend the Trzaskowski, because you can get some very nice wins just like this one with white without really putting in a massive amount of effort, right? Anyway, I keep looking over here because drama, you know, people signing up and not playing, and I'm not looking at an engine, I'm looking at the Discord channel where people are chatting about and watching these games and wondering when somebody's going to show up to play and watching and etc. etc. Anyway, really doesn't matter where my opponent goes here. Queen h8, queen a8 is coming, and we're going to be up a lot of material, and or maybe my opponent is wondering why they signed up to play, but they shouldn't worry about such things. We had like 60 volunteers sign up to play, so I have to pick 5 from that. It's not easy. Oh, I'm not winning their rooks by force. Not quite. Very nice. You can play bishop e8. I didn't even see that. But then I can play long castles check, which is a very appealing move. Anytime you can castle and give a check, it's always very fun. Yeah, and now we have to find checkmate. So if this, then this. So I'm not, I mean, we can take a free pawn for the road. I think I'm going to just double my rooks. I want to bring a rook up, bring another rook, and then rook e4 is actually just straight up checkmate, which is sort of hilarious. This king is just going to be stranded in the center of the board. Yeah. Hopefully the next opponents in the series are here and are not gone. So Trzaskowski, D4 Dynamite, you could get it, 40% off, use code return. I love it. I love Trzaskowski. Trzaskowski was the opening that made me a FIDE master, like 2300. I gained probably about 150 rating points over the board, beating, you know, chess masters, because people just don't know how to handle the positions. They might know the theory, they might study like 5-10 moves of theory, but they just get totally outmaneuvered and outplayed in the middle games. And that happens. Well, that happens. The next few opponents are rated 1400, about 1700 and 1900. We're really going up the rating ladder. My opponent here is really taking their time here. Really contemplating what to do with the remaining bit of material that they have. Bishop c6 is not a bad move. That attacks my queen and also defends the rook. If they play that, I will be mildly annoyed because I also do not get to play my plan. And at that point, if you really want to, you know, sacrifice the queen for the rook and just remove all of your opponent's pieces one by one, even if it means material loss, that's one of the ways to play. You also can take the pawn. Listen, when folks volunteer to play, they are entitled to all of the time on their clock. So it doesn't matter if you're down some minutes, if you're down material. I would still recommend taking your time and finishing the game. Okay, here we have a nice little deflection tactic. The king is protecting the rook, so we should always look for checks. We have this, but we can also come back, and now the king has to stop guarding the rook. So this is now the only move we take, and it's even worse because this. So there's stuff you can learn always. Right, it's always stuff that you can be learning in these games, right? This is a checkmate now, but yeah, the real mistake happened on move 4. Knight c6 is just not a good move. And I was able to get a nice little kind of initiative going very quickly against my opponent. Position here is equal, but it's very tough to handle. After I took, I wonder, interesting, wow, so the engine really likes this move d4 by my opponent. Wow, fascinating. Just to sacrifice the pawn. So actually my opponent is a genius, you know, playing knight c6 followed by e5. Look at that. The computer thinks that I shouldn't have rushed here in the center of the board. Yeah, but Stockfish is such a dream killer. I mean, my god. I had another idea to play like this and then play like knight c3. Let's see what the computer thinks about this. Yeah, it doesn't hate this. Bishop b4. The reason why white cannot get a comfortable initiative like going on black is because black has a lot of development here. But as we can see, even though my opponent played the move that Stockfish gives the blessing to, they just lost the game instantly, right? Like, so Stockfish says it's fine, but that doesn't mean it's super playable from the human standpoint, which is why I don't always recommend it, right? Don't always recommend these kinds of things. Like here, the computer finds a way to justify sacrificing the pawn by getting a lot of activity. The engine actually wants to sacrifice 2 pawns. Like black is down 2 pawns here, but white has to worry about various threats. But yeah, I mean, knight c6 was very interesting. I wonder if instead of c4, I should have played for something else. Yeah, against knight c6, the computer actually prefers that I go here and prevent e5. And have some pressure there right away. Fascinating. Wow. Even I get to learn something from these games and how to win at chess. I thought I was just playing this typical Queen's Gambit stuff, and I thought I was doing quite well. But as it turns out, the engine finds some crazy, obscure ways to justify black's play. But there you go, right? Just because Stockfish gives it the blessing doesn't mean it's very easy to handle as a human. All right. Let's go. Sad kangaroo. Hopefully this kangaroo can be happier by playing me in a game. d4. Let's play a modern. This is my g6 course. Opponent might go back to playing e4, or maybe opponent will play a London. Hopefully the opponent plays d4, c4. Okay, very nice. d6. Okay, g3. Opponent is a Catalan player. All right, let's show you how to beat up on a Catalan player. This is my favorite setup of all time, I have to say, against Catalan positions. In the g6 course in particular, if my opponent just plays these two, like, you know, typical Catalan moves, I am just going to be so thrilled. Because a lot of people who play the Catalan, yeah, exactly. And now I'm going to play this queen c8 idea. And the idea is to go bishop h3. And what a lot of people do here is they want to get out of that trade, so they will play rook e1, which is a very natural move. But rook e1, bishop h1 is a very specific type of move order, yeah, and most people will just do this. Here comes bishop h3. So this setup is awesome. And the whole point is you paralyze this pawn, and then you want to play h5, h4. That's a decent move. And the whole idea of queen to b3 is that you want to take me and then play queen takes b7. However, that stops guarding that pawn. And I wonder if that's just a free pawn for me. Like, if I take on g2 here, and then take on d4, did you just leave your pawn to die by accident? Like, I'm changing the game plan now, right? I'm not necessarily going for h5, h4, but I think you just handed me a free pawn. The game is not over, it's just a free pawn. But you were so quick to react to my instigation over there. Please don't go here, right? We need to come back. That you overreacted. I also think my opponent's playing too fast. So some people play a little bit slowly, some people play a little bit too fast because they're a bit nervous to play me. So they're like, oh, I gotta playing fast. So let's continue this whole thing, h5, h4. We would love to get the pawn there. I think my opponent will play h4 themselves. Okay, that's also not a bad move. I can play h4 now, and I can also play just knight f6. I wonder which one I should go for, knight f6 and then h4. It's never too late to just, you know, go back to developing your pieces like a normal human being. Okay, let's play knight f6. I do have ideas here to sack. I don't know if it's the best move, but I definitely have the idea. For instance, my opponent might just play something like rook d1, right? Just bringing the rook to the middle. I'm not worried about these checks. Rook h1. Is an interesting move. I really want to go here and sacrifice, but there is absolutely no reason to do that. I also can play b6 and then put my queen on this long diagonal, which is sort of funny. I can also play queen d7 and try to do that. I have a lot of options here. This position actually is not for a lack of choice. Let's I don't know. And also castle. I kind of don't want a castle because I really like my rook on the h-file. Yeah, so many options. Okay. Let's castle. Say, Levy, how can you castle? You played h5, so what? There's a very big difference between your king is weak, just words, and your king is weak and showing me the opponent's moves where the weakness is going to be justified and demonstrated. There's no weaknesses here because you cannot play g4 and all your pieces are over here. I love this setup in the g6 course against the Catalan. It really, really throws people off. Okay, now I think I'm sort of tired of having this pawn as a weakness, and I would like to put my queen on this very funny, very long diagonal. I don't think this makes sense by my opponent, because this rook is just totally blocked. I mean, you're relying on the opening of the position, but if you do that, then your king is also weak. So, yeah, and I mean, if you play f4, I just go here. So I'm a pawn up, and I think my opponent's position isn't that great, right? And, yeah. Queen b7 and nice position. So I think modern repertoire with g6 really throws Catalan players off because I recommend something very, very belligerent and annoying, and people just kind of really don't know how to handle that position. You're going to hear me say that a lot. You hear me say that a lot in How to Win at Chess, how to handle the position. That is what I'm trying to teach you more than anything else. There's a lot of schools of thought in chess. One of them is you have to learn all the main lines and what the best players play. That's not a philosophy I subscribe to. I think you should play what you want, play what you find fun, and play what you understand. If you play openings that are sort of above the learning curve, you might convince yourself that you're trying to understand them, but you may not be. And I think the g6 modern, I think d4 in that first game, you know, we're just playing kind of principled normal moves. I think these are the things that we should be going for. I'm going to play queen b7. The truth is that here, black has like probably 10 moves that are okay. So playing like this is, just playing some couple of quick moves is not the worst thing in the world. Now I see that there are 7 pawns here, right? And I see that opening the position would be quite beneficial. So I'm going to play this move, e6. And the point of this move is I would like to take a crack at just shattering the center of the board. Again, we have many options here. Both sides are still sort of jostling for position. Okay, rook f2 doesn't really do much, so I'm going to prepare my move d5. I need more defense on that move. But now I need to think about what happens if my opponent doesn't take, right? Like they could push, which is kind of annoying. It's kind of an annoying move, e5. If my opponent plays e5, I guess I'm just going to rotate backwards. I also am guaranteed at least one capture, so... but sometimes there is the philosophy of take once and push. So for example, if they take once and push, that's kind of annoying. If they just push, I can go here. But if they take once and push, I'm actually not sure I'm doing okay there. I actually think I'm playing that into my opponent's hands more than my own. So rook e1 is not a bad move. But what is a chess game without learning from our mistakes, right? So I'm going to play d5, and I'm going to see if my opponent like sees that idea to take once and push. Take once and push is a very sophisticated kind of little trick. If you just push, I go here. Yep, see, I gave them a chance. But now, the reason why this is so good for black is because my knight hangs, but the queen hangs, right? So they have to take, and now I get to go here, and the pawn is still blocked. Whereas if my opponent had taken once and pushed, they would have gotten a little bit better version of this. Now I'm going to play knight d5 looking for a knight trade. Any endgame is better for me because I have 7 pawns versus 6. And that makes me kind of wonder if I should trade queens as well, but there is this move. So let me just take with the rook. This pawn could now, I would prefer if this pawn was here because I would have a more solid king, but if you're going to play g4 and open up your own king, then I'm not really too worried. Okay, that pins me, which is a bit annoying. Other than that, there's nothing there. I could get out of the pin and attack that. That seems smart. Let's get out of the pin and attack that. And then I want to double. Nope, I want to double. Of course, the bishop will come to g5, so there's some weak spots here. Beyond attacking this, I actually have another threat, which is rook takes pawn, which I sort of forgot about. I forgot about rook takes pawn because rook takes pawn hung a queen. But going here, now I have rook takes pawn. Kind of a problem here. White should definitely save this pawn. You lose this pawn, you're going to lose the game very fast. Whole position will fall apart. Good. Good, good. I mean, hopefully my opponent realized, like, they have to save, a certain pawn here. So yeah, now I'm up 2 pawns. I'm up 2 pawns. Just anytime you go venturing down that far with the queen, make sure it doesn't get trapped. Nice move. Look at that. Good move. Nice awareness here. I can escape this way. I think I can also hit the bishop here. But I am playing with fire a little bit. Anytime you go that far, you want to make sure that you always have getaways. But I am up 2 pawns. I will say that again. I'm up 2 pawns. Being up 2 pawns is good. Now we try to simplify. We want to simplify, trade off our opponent's most powerful piece so we don't blunder some crazy counterplay. And then, yeah, I'm going to try to win beyond that. All right, I haven't moved my rook into the game yet. Rook d2 would be a dream because that way I not only trade rooks, I also get closer to the king. Okay, h4 is not, that's not good. That is not... Right, like h4 is just not going to cut it. Rook d2, we're getting to that king now. Queen a2, queen c2. Just be careful, don't hang anything. But those are the various ideas. I like where my bishop is. And notice how a long time ago I said, is my king weak because I pushed the pawn? No, my king is probably the safest piece on the board. Just hanging out behind all the pieces. You have to look at how the opponent can get to you. If the opponent can't get to you, then right, you're fine. Okay, I can take. But also, you don't really want to take because you surrender control of everything. So how about this move? It's a very cool move. Apply more pressure to this rook on the second rank. Queen a2 is a nice move. Queen c2 would not work because they would take, and that defends that, and that would be tragic. Don't blunder that. Queen a2 is setting up a winning combination. I'm setting up the capture of the rook. If this, then this. Okay, so they move. Actually, it's a very good move. That's a great move because you forced me to make a decision. Nice move. So now I have to go here. Now you can take, and I have to respond to you again. Don't trade queens here, obviously. Okay, queen trade up 2 pawns never hurt anybody. I mean, of course, I'm going to be going... Oh my gosh, I almost blundered, actually. Oh my gosh, I almost made a huge mistake. Oh, there was a really crazy trick here. Rook d2. And that hits this and this. And if I had taken the queen, they would have had rook d8 check, and then they would have won this for free. Oh my goodness, that would have been terrible. I would have, if rook d2, I would have either had to sack my queen for the rook and the bishop, or go all the way back here, which isn't, oh well, I'll show you that after the game. I guess I can go here, but rook takes is also a nice move. Oh, what? Rook takes, I guess there's this, but luckily I can take that. Yeah, so my opponent's just trying to kind of sneak in and take some of my weak pawns. I'm going to try to put up a little barrier here so I have no weaknesses. You do not want to do this. This is just game over. Once you've pinned yourself like this, you're just going to lose because you can't move either piece now. Yeah, you want to avoid having your 2 remaining pieces kind of stuck like this. Now I have moves like this as well. So this is just game over. Opponent will have to, yeah, move the bishop, trade rooks, and I'm just going to push. You just, that's a nice move. Yeah, you will slow me down for a little bit here. I can force this. I can also just be patient. I can just walk my king. And there's, you go, yeah, you're just going to lose all your pawns. Once you start being careless, I will take every pawn for free. And now I'm up 5 pawns, which is good. It's good to be up 5 pawns in an endgame. Let's go bishop g3. And now we have another pawn to push. I don't care about this anymore. Of course, you can protect those pawns, but once my h-pawn gets in, that's just game over. There's nothing to be done. You cannot protect against these two moves, and we win. Just you have to checkmate, don't stalemate. And I will show you that rook d2 thing. It's never too late to lose absolutely everything you worked so hard for. Cut the king off. So the easiest way to win a game fast. Just make sure the king is stuck. Don't give any checks. Get as close as possible. And see, the game can end in 2 moves. You don't need to mess around. You don't need to make 2 queens or take all the pieces. Oh, that's actually a good move. That does cover mate. This is covered. But now you have check. You force the king here. And this is a mate. That's the fastest way to win a game. We promoted. Queen is so powerful that the game can end right away. So I just want to show that little moment where I played rook d2. Or I almost blundered rook d2. Yeah, this could have been really bad. Because I need to now make a move that defends my rook. And this is the only move. And now if this, then this, fine. And if this, then this. However, if the position was such where, let's just say, something like this. Oops. Something like this. Rook d2. I would have straight up lost the game here, maybe. Because I don't have queen a8. So now yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's completely nuts. I almost blundered rook d2. But it's a very rare tactic, because when you play queen d5, you're just like, oh, I'm going to trade queens. There's nothing to think about. You know, I just played queen d5. There's nothing to think about. But wow, rook d2 would have been very, very annoying. And I would have had to go all the way back and luckily still have this move. But that's tough. Wow, that is a very, very tough defensive move. Everything else was more or less self-explanatory. And in the opening, instead of playing queen b3, which was just a blunder, I think. Yeah, my opponent played queen b3, which, yeah, just lost the pawn is what it did. Many people here will play something like d5, and then the knight goes here. This is all in the g6 modern course. And the general idea here by black is to be playing for h5, h4. So white oftentimes will do something like this to avoid the trade, and you play h5 and just try to attack as fast as possible. Black gets very interesting play against this Catalan stuff. I love this g6 modern stuff against the Catalan. You can also check the course out. You know what I'm talking about. If at any point I play an opening in one of these videos and you're like, well, they played this, but what if they do that? You know, it's your responsibility, right? Like, my responsibility is to show you the opening, but I can't teach you the entire opening. That's not really the point of the video. All right, so the next individual is not online, so I need to tell them what to do. Like, they are not here. I was really hoping they would be. This is very frustrating, but it is what it is. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for people to get into live chess. Okay. Let's see. All right, my opponent is online. Here we go. Boop. Game time. All right, last time I played d4, so this time we have to play for e4. And e5. I recommend a lot of different stuff here. Let's play a Vienna. I'm sure my 1800 rated opponent knows how to play against the Vienna. And, okay, they play knight c6, so definitely not a bad move. Bishop c4. Maybe bishop c5. Maybe bishop c5. I'm very curious. Ooh. So are they going to let me copycat them? This is straight out of the e4 course. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe my opponent has some crazy preparation here. Maybe they have never seen this before, and you know, now they're gonna have to react. My opponent has played only about 100 games of Rapid. Maybe they play mostly on Lee chess, or maybe they play mostly Blitz. But yeah, Queen G4. This is a tough move to meet if you've never seen it before. It's very intimidating. And you could very easily blunder into the most sharp line, which is Queen F6. The best line here for black, I think, is something like knight d4, according to Stockfish. It's this crazy line where you allow this, you trade queens, and then you say, well, I have compensation. No human being in history will play that. Like, it's just not human. This and this are very human moves, and queen f6. Queen f6 is probably the most human move up until about 1600, but even beyond that, this is also very human. And king f8 is natural. Yeah, so my opponent's thinking, which is good. That's good. They've never seen the copycat variation. This is an awesome weapon that I would recommend for many people. I've beaten many grandmasters with the copycat variation. Yeah, the best move after bishop c4, in my opinion, as you saw in the first game, was knight f6 to avoid this nonsense. And my opponent's already stumped on move 4, which is a very good sign. Very good sign for me. I'm going to sit here and await some moves. Yes, I'm very happy to see queen f6. This is straight out of the e4 course. We absolutely do not need to defend this pawn. We don't need to defend this pawn. And this catches so many people off guard. Get that e4 course. I'm telling you, use code return. Yeah, queen f2 is... like, this is a shock to our opponents. So now we have two threats. We threaten the queen and we threaten this, and if we also have that threat. So this is very overwhelming for a first-time individual to face this. And this is crazy. My opponent is 1800. They're a very good player, but they are playing directly into our preparation. Queen f2. I've also had some people play this, and think it was mate. That sometimes happens, especially in blitz when you don't have this much time to think. People play this, and then go here, and then just white just takes, and then people resign. So I've seen that happen before. Once you play this, you actually have to commit to this. There is nothing else. If you bail now thinking, oh my god, like, that must be prep, I gotta avoid it, you're just gonna lose even faster, because what's your alternative? I mean, is your alternative one of those moves? Just blundering a rook? You have to take. You have to take, and then after that, you have to, just deal with the consequences. But see, look at this. Already, we're up 3 minutes on the clock. It's only move 5, right? There it is. King d1. I don't remember what the best move is now. I think it might be g6. I don't remember. There is one line here that Stockfish gives for black that's okay, and I never remember it because nobody ever plays it. Basically, my win rate from this position with white is something like 90%. I mean, it's very, very high. Basically, now that we have three threats, sorry, two very obvious threats. The third threat is a little bit less obvious. The third threat here is to trap this queen. And the queen trap usually happens with the knight coming to h3, forcing the queen to the middle, and then locking the gate with d3 and c3. I've trapped some people's queens like this before. It's a very common Vienna trap. But yeah, that happens as well. I think that the top line of the engine is something strange like h5. And it's very... I don't even, like I said, I really should remember it, but I don't, because from here people lose extremely fast. Okay, knight f6. Now we have to think on our own here. If we take, the queen returns, so we know that's just not right. Our queen is hanging, so we should probably go here. Knight c7 is probably incorrect, because then king d8, our queen is still hanging, and so is our knight. So probably this is the best move, which attacks this and this. There's no check, which means that, yeah, we just probably go here. I think we're just, like, completely winning. I don't even... yeah, I don't know. I think this is just a completely winning position for white. But knight takes d5, you still need to be careful. It's never too late to throw everything, you know, away and lose. Yeah, so I was wondering here if we should take the rook or take here. Or take neither and play this. No, but then the queen goes back. So here's what I'm thinking. I mean, bishop takes d5, queen f1 is mate, right? If we take here, we cannot take this pawn. We could go here. We could take here and take, but then there's queen g2. Then we take the knight. This is nuts. The Vienna is completely insane. I mean, how wrong can it be to take a rook with check? Okay, like, for all this calculation, you don't want to overthink this. You get a full rook and it's check. Then you'll figure it out. Just don't hang mate in one, right? So sometimes it's just like you want to take the knight, but take the whole rook. Your opponent just gave you an entire rook with a check. Then you'll figure it out. All right, so if bishop d5, this is a nice way to lose. Knight h3 I don't think solves anything, which makes me think like this has to be the right move. It just has to be. It just doesn't, right? There's no checks beyond that. So yeah, let's go here. And now we are up 5 whole points of material. And we are also threatening to take and be up even more material after we take this. Potentially going to be up a ton of material. This was a move that kind of I didn't want to allow, because that's when our queen was on the g file. It stopped this move. But you have to keep in mind you're going to win more material and more material. So you're going to win all the material, right? You're going to win a knight, a pawn, and another bishop, which is more than enough for this. And you also can get the bishop into the game by playing d4, which is another kind of very sneaky and hidden move here. The fact that you can thrust your pawn forward, not slowly, but aggressively to win tempo. d3 is a very solid move, but it doesn't do anything besides threaten this. d4, however, in certain positions is a totally different story. Wow, d6. Okay. Man, these 1800s are extremely resilient. That's a great move. The threat is here, and to win my queen. I now have to play back with my queen, I think. I think I have to play this. Bishop g4, I would take that. I have to. I think I have nothing else, by the way. I think if I allow bishop g4, I just lose. So it's all about focusing on your opponent's moves. This is a Vienna where we are up a rook, but we have to hang on for dear life to win. So I'm going to go queen g7. I don't think I have any other move. The benefit of queen g7 also is that I defend against queen takes g2. So now I am up a rook without any of the negative consequences. It's crazy how I'm just like 1 square away from getting mated. But I mean, you're up a rook after 8 moves, so I feel like this is a pretty good opening experience builder. All right, so queen g7. I have now stopped queen g2 and bishop g4. Yeah, very okay. I was expecting this move. Yeah, I was expecting this move. So the threat is to take and go here. If you move the bishop, you get mated, which makes me think, of course, I can just retreat my bishop and I will be completely fine. That is option number 1. Option number 2 is look for danger levels, which I don't think we have. If you play d4 now, they take with check. So that doesn't really work. If the queen was here, this would be different, but it's not. So I'm thinking just go back to e2 and just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. We are safe. We are up a rook. And we are going to go here and then go there. Now we probably should do that, right? We also have knight h3, for example. We're okay trading because we are completely winning. Knight h3 might have also been okay, but no need to even get involved in all that. The knight went there for one purpose, and now it's just on the edge of the board. Okay, bishop f5. Is that a threat? No. So I like knight h3 now. This is not quite a fork because that's protected. But does knight h3 just work? Oh, knight h3, there might be bishop c2. Oh my god. Chess is a hard game. My knight is defending my bishop. If this, then bishop c2, and all of a sudden... I really want to move my rook to f1, though. This is the issue. Okay, if I cannot play that, I'm thinking to go back to this d3 idea, which I mentioned earlier. Yeah, d3 now just looks smart. It didn't look smart several moves ago because it was too slow. But now it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with getting a bishop into the game. I'm up a rook. Like at the end of the day, I'm up a rook. So I really should not be that concerned about slow moves. I just need to look at what any of these pieces could do to me. And if the answer is not much, then it's all right. Now, there's other moves here, by the way. I think I could have gone, like, back. I could have tried to, like, trade the queens. My move is not necessarily the best move, but it's a move, okay? And, yeah. Anyway. So bishop g5 is coming. Knight h3. This idea is back. More pieces I can trade, the better. And not to mention the fact that, like, the overall meta strategy, my opponent has 2.5 minutes versus 5. 6, basically. I have 6 minutes on the clock. So even if my opponent was to fight back, they've only left themselves about 2 minutes to play the rest of this game, which is bold. It's a bold strategy. I don't think it's going to pay off. And yeah, this is pure Vienna stuff right here. Okay. We might just have a knockout here. I might just be able to win with bishop g5. I also could play knight h3. This move disconnects the queen from the defense of this pawn. But I think I'm winning. I think I can give a check, and there is no way to defend. This pawn prevents the king's escape. So the king only has 2 squares to go to. You cannot go here. And I think it's just mate. I think you just get bulldozed by the bishops, which is sort of crazy. The last thing that I was expecting was to win the game by checkmate in like 3 turns. And yeah, wow. It's just going to be made in 15 moves against an 1800, folks. That's the power of the Vienna in the E4 course. This is why I recommend this to you. If you happen to be 1 hour into this video of Win at Chess episode 22, this is why I recommend some of this stuff. I mean, the top GMs don't play Vienna because black can equalize very easily. But up until like 2200, people have no idea what the Vienna is all about. And it packs a punch. So king e8, I'm going to check. And then go bishop g4. And we'd probably just have a mate. But between the 2 moves, this is the more accurate one. Since you do not want to go here first and allow this bishop check. It's actually more accurate to go there and force my queen on the same line as your rook. Admittedly, that's very hard to play. So yeah, now bishop g4, and that's just game over. If you go here, I take this. And then it's check, and it's made in a move. And if you go king e8, it's also made in a move. Wow. How quickly it all falls apart. Yeah, how quickly. You could go bishop f5 and just try to, like, you know, trade some pieces. But yeah, queen f7, and that's it. I mean, I'm going to win the bishop at least. I don't even need to win the bishop. This is just checkmate. Wow, 16 moves, checkmate. Vienna, what a game. What a game. I wouldn't be surprised if we played like almost, you know, 100% accurate game. I am curious, was the response to this queen g7? Yes. Was the response yes? Was taking... Oh, interesting. So the move that I played wasn't even the best move. Wow. I blundered. The best move here was not to take. It was to play queen g8. Oh, wow. So you see, it's +6, but only if I play queen g8. What was wrong with my move? Queen g2, yeah. And then here I was thinking to go, is this just wrong? What? Ooh, d6 is winning here for black with the idea of bishop g4, and I actually can't stop that. Oh my goodness. So I would have had to go to my original... Remember I brought up this d4 idea? Yeah, this is okay now. And the idea of d4 here is that if black takes, then bishop h6 and queen f... Oh my god. The Vienna is an insane opening. Wow. I was winning, but I played an inaccurate move. Wow, that is a fascinating... I gotta add that to the course, by the way. I think I will. I've never seen this before. Queen g8, my god. Which is the practical value of playing as some of these positions. Amazing. Wow. Just unbelievable. I've never seen this before. I've never had the move knight f6 because I just thought, oh, I just take everything. Wow. Yeah, you can always learn something new. So apparently, well, d6 lost. D6 lost because I went here and defended everything, and then, wow. Shocking. Did not play a perfect game. I learned something. Wow. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Yep. Here we go. Last game of the day. After that, it was smooth sailing, but wow. Queen g8, what a sick move. If you don't know the move Queen g8, you're never finding that in advance. You're never finding that over the board. I mean, it's just an unbelievable move. All right, and the last player of today's episode is also not online. So I have to yell at another person. I've yelled at everybody today. I don't know why people just sign up and they don't know how to follow instructions. This is very frustrating. I just have to sit here looking goofy. Just sitting here and waiting for people to show up to play their game. Do. I think I've had to wait for for 3 people today out of 5. That's a record. Generally people show up and they play. They don't forget. I mean, this is crazy. I'm gonna have to sit here for like 2 minutes. This person's still not here. It's so strange. Why sign up and not? I mean, I don't. What are people doing? Let's see. Is this individual here? Nope. Well, I'm going to wait for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, and if this individual does not show up to play their game, we will, I guess that will be the end of the episode, sadly. They are showing that they are online in the Discord, which is where they signed up to play. And, yeah, I don't know. What can I say? What can I say? Maybe we should analyze this game instead. Let's go back. Couple of moves. And this is sort of well, all right. What can I say? I don't know. I'm sort of sad that this is the way this episode has to end. But I was gonna play a 1900, but they did not show up for the game. 2 people today did not show up for the game. But I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope this last game, you know, didn't cause any heart rate issues. And learn your Vienna lines. This is gonna be my homework after seeing this game, because that queen g8 move is going to haunt my nightmares. And the amazing thing about the move queen g8 is the reason this is so strong is it covers this, and if black tries to set up this, it no longer works because bishop g4 is covered. It's actually kind of the same thing that happened in our game, except in our game I took and then played queen g7, so I covered both of these squares. I think seems to be that's kind of the important resource in the position. Why I have to cover f7 from this, and why I need to defend that. That is wicked. What a wicked move. Not to mention the other ideas of like knight h3, for example, and then rook f1. Wow, awesome. I've never seen that before. I've played chess 20 years. I've still never seen that. It seems as though that individual is not showing up to play. It's been already several minutes. And yeah, I'm disappointed, but hopefully you are happy with today's episode. I played a lot of the ideas from my own courses and from my own experience. I even learned something about an opening today, which I've never seen in my life. And if you want me to record more often than once every 4 months, let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next episode. Get out of here.